Hi, my name is Stephen Cartwright, and I am an artist and a self-tracker. And I think this is how it all started. I moved to Philadelphia when my grandmothers were getting quite old, and I started to notice every old lady in the city. So I started to put a dot on a map. And after a while, I realized that this process was doing a better job at mapping my location in the city than it was at mapping these old ladies. So that beep on my watch is just an indicator of what I started next. I got a GPS, and I started keeping track of my latitude, longitude, and elevation every hour. So that was in 1996. So I've been keeping track for more than 14 years with this with a succession of these devices. Here's a picture of my logbook. So after more than 14 years, I have more than 122,000 recorded places. So I do it by hand first, partially because I started all this because I started before you could do all this stuff on your smartphone. So here's a map of my whereabouts for the duration of the project in the Northeast United States. The different colors on here show different years of the project. And we're going to zoom in here in a second on Richmond, Virginia, where I lived for a few years. And here you can see the repeated tracks back and forth between where I worked and where I lived over the time that I lived in that city. I mapped this in 3 dimensions, actually, and the next slide will show you that same image rotated. So we're looking now at the latitude and longitude with time going up the z-axis. So now you can really see how those repeated trips back and forth to work stack up over and over and over again. But it got a little bit frustrating mapping the things this way because your life moves sort of point to point, and that was sort of mapping raster to raster. So I built this machine here, and it's an XY plotter with an RGB LED on the top of it. And it moves around, and I can take long exposure photographs of that LED moving through space. And here I can sort of track that's like groove I'm making in space-time, right? And what I was trying to capture was that sort of invisible history that we're all sort of leaving, trailing behind us as we're going through life. And by capturing that light, which is sort of just so transient, it gave me a sense that I was capturing a little bit of that. It also got me thinking about how everybody in the world has one of these little tracks, and how are these tracks interacting with each other and interlacing, and what impact are we having on each other's tracks, and what impact are we having on the world that we live in. So in addition to the latitude and longitude data, I also record all kinds of other stuff. So all kinds of different mileage, sunrise and sunset time, what time I wake up and go to bed, how much I spend, that sort of thing. So here's my running mileage, and it was easy for me to see that looked like mountain range. So I built this Kinetic sculpture to sort of illustrate this data. And what's interesting to me about this information is, all this running is done over flat ground. I live in Illinois, so there's no mountains. So this creates this fictional topography that I'm running over. So the flat prairie in Illinois becomes the rolling sea or some sort of mountain range like the Blue Ridge Mountains. So going along from this project, I decided to even expand that data spatially even more. So here's a couple maps or topographies based on my running and bicycling mileage. And these two surfaces have sort of correlating surfaces. So high mileage on the running one, which you're seeing here, correlates with low mileage on the bicycling landscape. And seeing the data like this made me realize that you really have to see the data in front of you in order to understand anything. And also it made me realize that you can't really know anything about yourself just by your perceptions or your recollections. You need to have that data in front of you. And it also made me think that we live on this sort of topography of information. So I'll be showing this piece at the conference on Wednesday and Thursday, and it's a Kinetic piece where I can scroll different data sets across the surface. So I started off by comparing my running, biking, and driving mileage along with the temperature, precipitation, and wind speed, basically to see if I was a wimp in the Midwest winter, and I was happy to say that I wasn't. I toughed it out. But it made me think about how all these correlations lead to these beautiful topographies of information. Thank you.